The aroma of scorched meat and critical stares permeated the atmosphere as I stood in my mother's backyard, grasping a wine glass. As if it were my final line of defense, another family barbecue presented yet another opportunity for my stepbrother Timothy. My name is Vienna, and I have spent the last decade as a source of disappointment. Mastering the skill of invisibility at family gatherings, however, today felt distinct. Perhaps it was the additional glass of wine, or perhaps I had finally reached my breaking point. Vienna, there you are. Timothy's voice resonated across the yard. I was merely discussing your dating life, or rather the absence of it, which elicited a few awkward chuckles. I compelled a smile for the throng, one that fails to illuminate my eyes, at least I am not. While discussing my third wife, Timothy, my cousin Jocelyn approached and offered a discreet fist bump. Someone is feeling spirited today. Before I could reply, my mother Ivy hurried over. Her expression contorted with concern. Vienna, dear, please be kind. Timothy is merely attempting to involve you. The conversation involved me, I chuckled. Is that what we now refer to as public humiliation? Timothy ambled. With that familiar sneer affixed on his forehead, come on, sister, you are aware that I am. I am merely concerned for your well-being. Perhaps if you were less intense, you might experience greater success with men, as my mother cautioned. However, her tone exhibited a deficiency in genuine authority when I observed him engaging the audience with an intricate narrative regarding his most recent endeavors. In the commercial partnership, everyone attentively listened to his every utterance, as was customary. Golden boy Timothy, who is infallible, evokes my disdain for his actions, Jocelyn. I murmured while replenishing my wine glass, he is insincere, you know. Mitchell informed me that his company is hemorrhaging funds, which piqued my interest. My former college acquaintance, Mitchell, was employed at the same firm as Timothy. Indeed, do inform later. Jocelyn said, but trust me, your brother is not as. Despite his seemingly flawless demeanor, the afternoon prolonged, and I found myself ensnared by Timothy near the cooler. He lowered his voice sufficiently for just me to hear, suggesting perhaps Vienna. If you had followed my advice on Dad's company job, you wouldn't be in that stagnant gallery role. I tightened my grip on the glass. I am passionate about my position at the gallery, as you undoubtedly are about yours. Condescendingly confront it, little sister, some individuals are destined for success. Something within me fractured, perhaps due to the booze, or perhaps not. It was a decade of pent-up anger, yet I confronted him straight. Timothy, one day that arrogant smile of yours will be completely erased from your face, he chuckled boisterously. To attract attention is a threat. Come on, Vienna, do not be theatrical, it does not suit you. To you, it may seem a jest, but I approached nearer, and herein lies the essence of humor. Occasionally, they returned to cause trouble. My mother seemed to materialize as if conjured by the stress. Vienna assisted me in the kitchen, away from inquisitive gazes. Commenced an attack on me. I wish you would refrain from antagonizing him, as he has good intentions. I forcefully placed the dessert plates on the counter. Mom, he has been reminding me since the day you wed his father. She emphasized that he is family, her default response to all of Timothy's actions, asserting that family does not treat one another in such a manner. I seized the pie and approached the door but hesitated. I have resolved to no longer be his punching bag. Outside, I observed Timothy presiding over the grill, and an inside transformation occurred. This was not merely about the remarks spoken today. Notwithstanding last month's taunts, this pertained to years of deliberate torment. Observing my mother prioritize tranquility above retribution while suppressing my pride to the point of self-alienation, my phone. I received a text from Jocelyn containing significant information about Timothy. Additionally, Zoe has returned to town, which nearly caused me to drop my phone. Contact Zoe Miller, my childhood friend who departed the town 3 years ago following a particularly unpleasant incident. Timothy, the same Zoe who claimed to possess evidence of his illicit business dealings, gazed up at Timothy's self-satisfied demeanor. I felt a genuine smile emerge on my face, not the insincere one I had maintained throughout the day. Something authentic and perilous, as for the first time in years, I did not merely wish to endure another family barbecue. I sought retribution, and with Zoe's return to town, I was certain of the means to achieve it. Desire to replicate what Mitchell nearly did when choking on his coffee, we were nestled in the corner of a tranquil cafe, distant from any disturbances. Acquainted individuals humbled Timothy as I continued to mix my cappuccino. Prior to your remarks, I was aware of the perception. It appears as though you have lost your sanity. Jocelyn interjected, her eyes glimmering with intrigue, but, following yesterday's barbecue, I cannot fault you, Mitchell. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. I understand that Timothy is unpleasant, but he is also. Your stepbrother is perilous when threatened. Inform me about the company, I urged Jocelyn. Mitchell expressed concern, glancing around anxiously, indicating that he should not be present. Disclosing this information, he has started manipulating the financial records, initially with little discrepancies, but the issues are escalating significantly. Could result in significant consequences if the appropriate individuals were informed, and Zoe is aware of this. Jocelyn inquired, to which I affirmed with a nod. Was employed in accounting at the firm prior to Timothy's actions that significantly disrupted her life and compelled her to leave God. I recall that Jocelyn trembled when he disseminated such falsehoods. She attempted to report his financial status, among other matters, as I stated bitterly. Miscellaneous actions rendered her the office pariah, a quintessential Timothy maneuver. Mitchell's phone vibrated, prompting him to check it. He grimaced while mentioning that the devil has requested I check several reports before Monday, stating that they are urgent and require more creativity. Accounting has piqued my interest. I have been meticulously documenting everything. If you are serious about this, you must exercise caution. Timothy has numerous acquaintances in Vienna. I required Zoe due to elevated locations. I retrieved my phone as she had authentic evidence. Have you conversed with her yet? Jocelyn inquired. No, but I received a text notification on my phone. Oh my God, Zoe just texted me. What does it say, Jocelyn? I climbed over the table to inquire, Hey V, I heard you had quite the confrontation with Timothy yesterday. Shall we have coffee tomorrow? I should speak. I gazed at my companions. This is it. This is our opportunity, Mitchell. He rubbed his temples, contemplating our family's potential to instigate World War III. There is an opportunity for justice. I corrected him, explaining that Zoe has the evidence, you have inside access, and I have nothing left. Jocelyn softly remarked that I should relinquish my desire for my mother's approval as I placed my cup down. Struck forcefully enough to cause the table to tremble, my mother's authority to critique diminished after she devoted a decade. Facilitating Timothy's conduct was a valid argument, which Mitchell acknowledged, yet, what precisely is it? Your plan is straightforward. We collect EV proof and await the opportune moment. At the forthcoming family gathering, we will disclose all instances of financial fraud. Jocelyn's eyes widened at the manner in which he treated Zoe throughout Labor Day. Your mother consistently organizes the gathering, which everyone participates in. It is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. Timing, I remarked, was something Timothy consistently used to flaunt before the extended family. Imagine that. Mitchell grumbled about his attempt to boast regarding his company achievement when everything collapses, deeming it ridiculous. However, he was already retrieving his laptop. If we are proceeding with this, we must be strategic. I can begin assembling I have observed financial inconsistencies and will discuss them with Zoe, as I have already indicated. Respond to her message, and I require both of you to behave normally around Timothy. We must not alert him. I am capable of acting normally. Jocelyn smiled, stating she would even laugh at his foolish jokes as we conspired. I had a blend of exhilaration and dread. It was no longer solely about retribution. It had evolved into a confrontation against a tormentor who had rendered several lives wretched. My phone buzzed again, indicating Zoe's confirmation of our coffee rendezvous for tomorrow. Below is a message from my mother. I hope you are feeling better, dear. Timothy expresses his apologies if he caused you distress yesterday. Of course he does, I mumbled, regarding Jocelyn's inquiry. Nothing, merely Timothy acting as he typically does. I demonstrated to them the text on my mother's manipulation. Observe next time I do so. Upon seeing her, she will convey his apologies and emphasize the necessity for my greater understanding. However, Mitchell has concluded his actions. In 2 weeks, she must exhibit greater understanding about the challenges her esteemed stepson is encountering. Despite prospective fraud charges, I felt more liberated than I had in years as we exited the cafe. For the first time, I was not merely fantasizing about confronting Timothy, I was really taking action. Tomorrow, I will meet with Zoe, and thereafter, the actual job will commence. Zoe appeared. Simultaneously identical and entirely distinct, her hair was shorter and more professional, yet her eyes retained that intense resolve. I recalled we had a corner table in an alternate cafe, distinct from our customary one. She remarked, while stirring her tea, that it has been 3 years of reconstructing herself. Following your brother's actions, I instinctively referred to him as my stepbrother, and I am quite. Apologies, Zoe, I should have exerted greater effort. She dismissed my apologies, stating that you attempted to assist. However, Timothy is rather remarkable. Are you aware that he continues to engage in financial fraud? Zoe retrieved her tablet. While reviewing paperwork, I recalled that Lisa from accounting contacted me last month. Timothy has been perpetuating the same playbook regarding culinary literature harassment. Nevertheless, this time he has encountered. My palms trembled as I examined the screenshots. These are transfer records. Offshore accounts, meticulously concealed, yet she grinned bitterly. I did not. After spending the last 3 years idly, I obtained my forensic accounting certification and am well aware of my capabilities. Observing now, indeed, Zoe, it is not the entirety. She inclined forward towards your companion. Mitchell has been meticulously documenting all activities, and we have maintained communication regarding the most recent updates. Last week, he discovered me on LinkedIn. He is quite an intelligent individual. She paused and recounted what he informed me about. During the Labor Day celebration, a server approached, prompting us to fall silent until he had taken our order for additional tea. After his departure, Zoe persisted, acknowledging the perilous situation. Vienna is unlikely to capitulate without resistance. I am weary of being a passive observer. I addressed her look and inquired about what he did to her. That was merely the beginning of his hurtful actions. There have been others who recall Sarah from marketing. She resigned last month. Mitchell observes the absence of a farewell gathering, stating that Timothy had been tormenting her following her inquiries on certain expenses. Zoe's knuckles turned white around her cup as he methodically isolates his targets. Induces self-doubt, and by the time they comprehend the situation, it is too late. However, I asserted, not this time. This time we possess evidence. Nonetheless, Vienna exhibited hesitation. Are you prepared for what lies ahead? This will impact your family. The question profoundly affected my mother, who has to be informed. Recognize him for his true nature, even if it causes pain. Zoe's phone vibrated. She smiled. I verified it and emitted a little laugh. Speaking of Timothy, guess who just attempted to connect with me on LinkedIn? No way, oh. Indeed, she likely observed my return to town and displayed the screen to me, indicating the message. I hope there are no lingering animosities. I would like to reconnect regarding prior events, but I am apprehensive as I suspect he is aware. Zoe's voice was resolute. Something was amiss. He ought to be present as we spent the subsequent time. Each hour spent reviewing her evidence, every document, every screenshot, every testimony, constructed a more lucid depiction of Timothy's situation. The plans were not solely focused on financial gain, they were also centered on exerting power and suppressing anyone who obstructed his objectives. There is one further aspect. Zoe mentioned that as we prepared to depart, your brother Louis wished to assist Louis, although he detested being entangled. Prior to witnessing Timothy's actions against me, he was involved in drama. He is currently engaged in it. He claims he can assist us in accessing certain encrypted files from the company server, which reminds me of Louis's protective nature. It has always pertained to his sister, existing inside a legally murky area, yet in comparison to other matters. What Timothy has done, she dismissed. Furthermore, we are not appropriating anything, merely. As we exited, Zoe seized my arm and inquired, Vienna, are you completely certain regarding this? Once we commence, there is no turning back. I recalled Timothy's grin at the barbecue over all the instances when I observed him belittle others while my mother rationalized his behavior about Zoe, Sarah, and an unknown number of individuals. There are others, I am certain, but Zoe, what prompted your return? She paused for a while. Running away did not resolve any issues. Each time I learned of another somebody Timothy had harmed, I felt as though Karma is timid, and her occasional tiny smile indicates that she needs some assistance. The phone vibrated with a message from Timothy. Hey sis, I hope you're no longer upset about Sunday. Let me make it up to you with dinner. This week, I presented it to Zoe, who scoffed, he's undoubtedly frightened. I responded in agreement. Her prior remark instilled in him a genuine fear as we left ways. I sensed the gravity of what transpired. We intended to rest upon my shoulders, but for the first time, it did not feel burdensome, it felt like purposeful labor. The day commenced with ideal weather and anxious nerves as I assisted my mother in preparing the backyard, observing her meticulousness. Every aspect as my tummy churned with anticipation for Timothy's arrival with his new. My girlfriend mentioned that she is arranging chips in a dish. Please be kind to her. I said, of course she is a lawyer, while checking my phone for the umpteenth time. There were still no messages from Zoe, and the visitors were present. Arrived around 2, Timothy appeared fashionably late, accompanied by his new love, Jessica, who was clinging to his arm. Precisely as I anticipated, refined, professional, and entirely oblivious of the true identity of her partner, Vienna Timothy. Called out, feigning a display of affection, you failed to answer regarding supper last week. I explained that I'd been busy disengaging myself. From his hug, the gallery is exhibiting a new show featuring paintings. He chuckled while turning to Jessica. My sister is an artist, she is employed at an art gallery. How intriguing, Jessica remarked with a smile that implied that it was everything but. Timothy informs me that you have consistently been the creative individual in the family, whereas Timothy has always. I responded pleasantly, acknowledging that we all have our duties to fulfill, don't we? Timothy's smile grew strained. Have you seen Mitchell? I haven't encountered him at the workplace recently, he has been quite occupied. Documentation to assess the implicit threat lingered in the atmosphere between us prior to. Timothy could answer as my mother summoned everyone to the meal table. I utilized the distraction to check my phone once again. They received a communication from Zoe indicating that Lizzie possesses the files and everything is satisfactory. Mitchell stood next to me, bearing 2 plates of food. You look pale, I remarked, whispering with conviction, Zoe is approaching. It was fortuitous that I brought these. He discreetly presented a USB stick containing backup copies, just in case, for your brother Louis. The subsequent hour was excruciating as I observed Timothy engage with the audience. He occasionally glanced in my direction as he interspersed his customary embellished narratives of business transactions and market trends. His confidence appears unshaken. He remains oblivious as Jocelyn whispers while joining us. Observe him boasting about the company's expansion at the drinks table. Where is Jessica? Inquired upon observing his girlfriend's absence, as she was engaged in a work call on a significant corporate fraud case. Jocelyn's eyes, glistening with irony, capture her attention. Imagine my phone vibrating. 5 minutes away. I promptly replied with a concise affirmative and gestured to Mitchell and Jocelyn. We had meticulously orchestrated this strategy. Mitchell would manage the technical presentation of evidence, whereas Jocelyn would ensure that no one departed prior to the significant revelation in Vienna. My mother approached with a frown, inquiring why I persistently check my. Why is Mitchell configuring his laptop for work-related tasks, Mom? Could you ensure that everyone remains for a moment? There is an announcement. Her eyes brightened. Are you? I eventually observed someone resembling that, I murmured. The sound of a car arriving caused my pulse to race. Timothy was in the midst of a story, gesturing dramatically about something. During the business negotiation, Zoe entered the backyard, resulting in an immediate impact. He halted mid-sentence, his complexion paling. Apologies for my tardiness, traffic was really congested, Zoe cried out joyfully. Mother expressed her confusion, stating she was unaware of my return to town. Oh yes, Zoe responded. I am approaching Timothy, as I have been intending to reconnect with everyone, particularly you, Timothy. We have much to discuss. Timothy muttered, I am currently occupied, as he glanced about for an escape. Perfect timing. I stepped forward as Mitchell was just about to move. Mitchell, please demonstrate something intriguing regarding the company's finances. Timothy's voice possessed a certain edge, rendering the situation quite intriguing. Panic ensued when Jessica returned, gazing at each of us with increasing bewilderment. Zoe stated, retrieving a folder, is this karma? The backyard became silent, even the birds appeared to halt their chirping. I sensed my mother's inquisitive stare, seeing a blend of perplexity and the guests exhibited curiosity, but most gratifying was Timothy's expression. The flawless facade of assurance is finally deteriorating, he said in Vienna, whatever. You believe you comprehend your actions, nevertheless, I am fully aware of my intentions, as I interjected, and I am finally prepared. Confronting you, and I am not solitary. Mitchell linked his laptop to the portable projector we had previously established. The screen illuminated, and Timothy's meticulously crafted world began to disintegrate with the initial slide. A basic spreadsheet appeared on the screen, causing Timothy's complexion to shift from pale to ashen, but Jessica remained still. Standing behind him, she leaned forward with apparent professional interest, stating, these are. Mitchell commenced his address with a steady voice regarding internal company information. Timothy responded, exhibit a pattern of financial irregularities over the past 3 years, disable that. It is a private family event, not a business conference, but it is pertinent to both. Zoe advanced. Accessing her folder, as you have been utilizing familial ties to conceal fraudulent activities, have you not, Timothy, my mother? I transitioned between them. I am perplexed by the situation. I will explain what is occurring. Timothy smiled uneasily as my sister and her friends attempted to instigate drama, as is their custom. The subsequent slide addresses what we now refer to as embezzlement. Jessica's professional manner faltered, revealing Timothy's reaction. He asserted that these transfer records are fraudulent, clearly created by someone, as Zoe interjected. The accountant you ousted with unfounded allegations when I initially observed the anomalies, or by Mitchell, who is Lisa, who contacted me last month and unexpectedly mentioned her name, may be the reason I have been documenting everything since then. Timothy's feigned smile disappeared entirely as Lisa inquired about Jessica. The accountant observed an issue, which I had previously explained, before Timothy began to torment her as well. That is not what I intended. Timothy surveyed his surroundings with desperation, exclaiming, Mom, you won't believe this, as our mother stood nearby. Timothy appeared frozen, unwilling to disclose the emails between us. Lewis cried out from his discreet position at the gathering to demonstrate how he had threatened my sister, prompting Mitchell to click. Once again, a barrage of email correspondences, menacing communications, and tampered accounts flooded the screen. Timothy began to explain, but Jessica interrupted him. As your attorney, I suggest you cease speaking immediately. She distanced herself from him, her professional demeanor restored as your girlfriend. We have concluded, Jessie. Wait, it is Jessica, and I prosecute financial fraud cases. Fool, she addressed Zoe. I would very much want copies of all the materials you possess. Family members had assembled in a rough circle around us, muttering among themselves. I could see Uncle Rob. A partner at a different firm is conversing discreetly on his phone. Do you find this amusing? Timothy abruptly went towards Mitchell's laptop, asserting, Do you believe you can simply intervene and touch that? Computer, and I will exacerbate your issues. Timothy, our mother's voice shook. Please confirm that this is not true. Assure me that you did not engage in these actions, Mom. Vienna has consistently envied my success, particularly in relation to Zoe. Smiled cynically. You refer to the success you achieved through embezzlement from your own company, accompanied by intimidation and harassment. I have proof of all actions taken by anyone who obstructed you. Mitchell has secured numerous copies, and prior to your attempt. Any information that the SEC possesses that halted Timothy abruptly? What? An anonymous tip regarding Mitchell shrugged was submitted this morning, indicating significant interest. The color entirely drained from Timothy's face. He turned to me, and for the first time in my life, I witnessed genuine fear. Fear in his eyes, Vienna. Please, we are family, you cannot do this to me. Family, I approached nearer. Was it familial when you subjected me to humiliation at every opportunity? You expelled Zoe from the town with your deceit, causing other women to feel uncomfortable in their workplace. I did not intend for this. Reserve your remarks for another day. The investigator, Jessica, interrupted and went to Zoe, stating, I would like to represent you and the other victims if you are interested. Timothy's phone began to vibrate. He retrieved it with trembling hands and gazed at the screen displaying the board. Summoning an emergency meeting, Mitchell remarked dryly. Our mother had collapsed into a chair, appearing stunned after all these years. I dismissed the resignations of women from their positions as mere discontentment. Timothy implored his mother, but she rose, her voice gaining power as she refused. No more justifications, no more shielding you. I already failed these ladies by disregarding their voices. I shall not fail them again. The backyard had transformed into a hub of activity while Uncle Rob remained engaged on his phone. Jessica was exchanging contact information with Zoe while several family members were either departing hastily or congregating. In the midst of shocked discussion groups, Timothy stood isolated as his meticulously built world disintegrated. He gazed at me one final time, opened his mouth as if to articulate, then he turned and swiftly proceeded towards his vehicle. Should we intervene? Jocelyn inquired. No necessity, was the response. Mitchell responded while checking his phone. The cops are already in his office, indicating that the SEC acts swiftly when motivated. I observed my stepbrother's car accelerate out of the driveway and experienced a profound sense of relief. The day was not yet concluded, however. I already understood that nothing would ever return to its previous state following Timothy's incident. Exposure transformed our family Labor Day gathering into an unplanned crisis meeting, with my mother seated at the patio table, hands around a cup of tea that had long since cooled while Jessica and Zoe elucidated the breadth of. Jessica softly elucidated Timothy's offenses exceeding $2 million. Funneled through multiple shell corporations, although my mother's voice trembled, he possessed all the necessary resources. Favorable circumstances for familial support, as articulated by Zoe, stem from the presence of others akin to her. Timothy believes he is untouchable. Nonetheless, my phone rang with a news alert indicating his arrest. He claimed that he was reading the message in his office, precisely as Mitchell had indicated. Additionally, Lou interjected, producing something. His laptop included information discovered in the encrypted files that extended beyond financial matters, prompting everyone to gather around as he revealed it. She retrieved a series of documents, and even Jessica was astonished. He was extorting the CEO, she inquired while scanning. The emails pertain not just to CEO Lewis but also to many board members. He maintained his job despite grievances, as he possessed compromising information on everyone. My mother rose suddenly, stating that she required fresh air. "Mother, wait." I began to follow her, but Jocelyn seized my arm and said, "Allow me." "Gently, you have other matters to attend to at this moment," just as my phone rang on cue. Amanda, Timothy's ex-wife, was inquiring whether it was real when I received her call. Addressed the arrests and the fraud, indeed, I responded succinctly, inquiring whether he ever attempted to. "Of course, blackmail me. Why do you believe our divorce settlement was so generous?" She chuckled cruelly. I should have realized. I acknowledged that I should have communicated earlier, as more family members were calling in messaging, causing the word to disseminate. Uncle Rob swiftly entered damage control mode to safeguard the family's other commercial interests. Jessica summoned me to the Fallout Vienna, indicating that there was something of interest to observe. She presented me with a document from Zoe's folder. It was an antiquated email correspondence between Timothy and his father, dated shortly thereafter. "Zoe discreetly said that he undermined your job applications during my college graduation." The reliability of the revelation struck me with the force of a bodily blow, hence, the intensity of my reaction. "He could not tolerate the notion of your success on your own terms," Mitchell remarked, as it did not align with his perspective. My mother returned, appearing somewhat older yet strangely more resilient. "I just finished a phone call with you. My stepfather is resigning." He was aware of some details, though not all. From the board, I expressed my apologies, but she raised her hand and said, "No, I am sorry. I have been justifying Timothy's behavior for years, convincing myself that he was merely high-spirited and ambitious. I did not want to." Zoe approached Mrs. Ward slowly, observing what was directly in front of her. "I attempted to inform you about the harassment 3 years ago." I recognize my mother's voice faltered. "I have let you down. I have let all of you down. However, particularly you, Viana, a mother, need to safeguard her children rather than facilitate their suffering." The noise of additional vehicles. Upon arrival, we were greeted by 2 serious individuals in suits who had FBI badges, and the woman announced, "We must inquire about Timothy Montgomery's business methods." The subsequent hours were disorienting. Statements and documents from family members emerged, some encouraging and others not. Clearly unsettled by the discoveries, Jessica suppressed her emotions while her legal instincts activated, assisting everyone involved. As the FBI officers departed, Lewis remarked that Timothy possessed a concealed camera. The office system documented all inquiries I made and all responses received. Confirmed, including his discussions regarding targeting women who reported harassment and threats. All evidence is present. Mother reclined in her chair, questioning whether a trial would occur given the substantial evidence. Jessica dismissed the notion. His optimal option is a plea bargain, and even then, HEK may still attempt to intervene. Zoe anticipated that men like Timothy would always talk their way out of situations. My phone vibrated. For the last time, a message from Timothy: "You have destroyed everything. I trust you are satisfied." I shared it with Zoe, who smiled bitterly. "Obstruct him. He is no longer your concern as the sun sets on what ought to have been." A modest family barbecue prompted me to reflect on the improbable alliance we had established, with my mother finally confronting difficult realities with Zoe. Jessica transitioned from an unsuspecting sweetheart to a resolute prosecutor, while I got my long-awaited freedom. Jocelyn inquired about the next steps as she assisted in dismantling the neglected party decorations, prompting my observation. As the sky darkens, we reconstruct, but this time devoid of falsehoods, the courthouse. The hallway seemed unseasonably cool for an October morning, 2 weeks post-Labor Day, when we were all assembled for. Despite his release on bail following his arraignment, Timothy's previously prevalent smug assurance was conspicuously absent. The BFF exclaimed as we entered the courtroom, where Timothy was seated at the defendant's table, adorned in costly attire. The garment that inexplicably made him appear smaller when he turned to face our group, including Zoe. My mother and other of his former workers observed his expression tighten as he inquired about the number of victims. I whispered to Jessica, who had become the attorney representing the 17 women assaulted by Timothy. She responded softly, and the financial liabilities continue to accumulate. The SEC discovered additional accounts yesterday, according to the judge. Upon entry, the proceedings commenced, and I observed Timothy enter a plea of not guilty. His voice, devoid of its customary authority, revealed that his new lawyer, significantly less refined than his typical legal team, stumbled through the proceedings. During a brief recess, my mother stroked my arm as he attempted to make a call. "What did he say to me last night?" I did not respond. She adjusted her jacket. Having completed the task, Zoe joined us, clutching a coffee cup that trembled slightly in her hands. His lawyer contacted me beforehand. The court proposed a settlement contingent upon my withdrawal of testimony, to which I responded with disdain. When Mitchell arrived, he grimly smiled, expressing his desire to document everything. "I am transporting a substantial folder with additional data from the internal audit, which continues to uncover fresh findings. Miss Ward, a court officer, approached your stepbrother and expressed a want to meet with you discreetly," I observed. My mother and Zoe both nodded. "I will accompany you," Mitchell offered while Timothy was present. When I arrived with Mitchell, Timothy signaled to his lawyer, who was standing nervously in a small conference room. He inquired whether the outcome was to exult, although the customary sharpness was absent from his tone. He requested to meet with me, and I reminded him that I had already done so. He nervously ran a hand through his hair. Gesture I had never previously encountered. "See, Vienna, I can rectify this. They have not yet located sufficient accounts to adequately recompense everyone and resolve the situation." Mitchell tensed beside me. "Are you genuinely attempting to communicate with my sister?" Timothy abruptly captured a moment with his camera. "The remnants of my former self are evident as I address my sister, and you are acknowledging further truths. Concealed accounts in a courthouse. I am attempting to rectify this." He struck his hand forcefully. "Do you not comprehend that this will jeopardize our family's reputation, particularly that of our mother? The company obliterated everything, those statements I uttered softly each time you issued a threat. Every dime you embezzled and every life you devastated because you believed you were superior to others. Rules I established, you contributed nothing." Mitchell interjected, claiming you appropriated my work. "You have ascended via intimidation, and now you are confronting the repercussions." Timothy's expression momentarily contorted. An unprecedented display of authentic contrition, albeit not for his acts. It was for being apprehended in Vienna. "Please, for my mother's sake, do not invoke her name. Sever ties with him. She is finally perceiving you for your true nature, as are we all." A knock at the door marked the conclusion of recess as we prepared to depart, and Timothy seized my arm. "You will regret this," he growled, as his mask slipped entirely as all of our family's secrets were revealed. I urged Mitchell to continue, but I raised my hand to stop him. I insisted he complete his statement as I observed. "Timothy, reveal your true self to others, as that is what you are. It is indeed terrifying, not the imprisonment or the penalties, but the prospect of others perceiving the true Timothy." His grasp slackened, and I withdrew as I approached the gallery door. "Next month, I will receive a promotion to director at my workplace. It seems that your interference was unnecessary." The courtroom proceedings resumed as the judge established a trial date and denied Timothy's request for business travel. Commanded him to relinquish his passport. "Observe him," Zoe murmured. "He genuinely believed he could charm his way to freedom." My mother sat upright as her stepson was being escorted away by his attorney. "I last conversed with his father," she softly stated. We are getting divorced." Then she asserted, "It's time." As we exited the courthouse, media congregated on the stairs and posed questions to Jessica. Addressed them with professionalism, delivering a succinct speech regarding justice and accountability. How does it feel, Jocelyn? I observed Timothy emerge from the automobile, ducking as he did so. Previously, our gazes intersected momentarily amidst the throng, during which I perceived all the years of manipulation, all the casual cruelty, all the lives he had affected. It felt impactful, as I articulated slowly, akin to karma, as the gallery thrummed with the opening. Night Energy, my inaugural exhibition as director, showcased works centered on transformation and justice. As I altered the angle of a painting, my mother appeared before me, discussing the concept of breaking free from restraints. The turnout is remarkable, she remarked, indicating the crowded room. Have you seen the review in the art section? Not yet, I have been too occupied. Apprehensive about reading it, she retrieved her phone, addressing the director in Vienna. Introduces a novel viewpoint on the timeless themes of power and redemption, with each piece addressing the moment when. As quiet dissipates, truth surfaces, Zoe approaches, holding a champagne glass. Verdicts in my possession became stagnant inside the framework. They indicated that deliberations could. She confirmed that Jessica recently called, taking days to plead guilty on all counts. Financial crimes, harassment, and the judge's apparent disbelief at the facts, my mother remained composed. Herself against a neighboring artwork, the sentencing is scheduled for tomorrow morning. The amount of charges, Zoe shook her head, indicating he will not receive merely a reprimand. Mitchell has joined our group. Loosening his tie, he said the board has just concluded their emergency meeting, during which they announced a comprehensive restructuring. Harassment protocols for external auditors, the operations, and the victims were fully inquired about. Compensation in addition to damages, he laughed, revealing that firms despise negative publicity more than they abhor doing ethically. The gallery continued to fill with art enthusiasts, critics, and, unexpectedly, numerous of Timothy's former associates. Victim Sarah from marketing was conversing with Lisa from accounting, their laughter resonating around the room. My mother pondered, seeing them. I always believed that exposure would dismantle our family, yet, paradoxically, it solidified us. Everyone, gather over, I have completed it. Jocelyn hurried over, phone in hand, exclaiming that you all need to see. Timothy's attorney has just issued a statement. We gathered around her screen to read that my client accepts full responsibility. He accepts responsibility for his acts and recognizes the suffering he has inflicted. He will be delivering a complete confession at tomorrow's sentencing has occurred, he finally broke, Zoe murmured softly. Look who is coming, Mitchell. Jessica entered, appearing more at ease than I had ever observed her. She apologized for her tardiness, citing a hectic schedule. On the day of placing the final nails in your stepbrother's coffin, how did he appear? My mother inquired at the conclusion, tiny Jessica? A critic approached to analyze a prominent picture, a phoenix rising. From fragmented strands, as I elucidated the artist's vision, I perceived glimpses of my support network dispersed throughout the gallery. Zoe is conversing about professional aspirations with Louis Mitchell, who is displaying something on his phone that captivated my mother. Jocelyn and Jessica actually laughed for the first time in weeks while discussing changes in working culture. The critic gestured towards the phoenix, describing the moment of metamorphosis when dread transforms. Strength, it is just what the artist intended. I said that at times, it requires a. As the mob dispersed, my mother located me once more, serving as a trigger for my eventual liberation. She expressed her contemplation of selling the house, citing an abundance of memories and numerous family reunions. Feigning that all was okay, are you agreeable to that? More than agreeable, the moment has arrived. For new beginnings, she caressed my arm and said, I am proud of you, Vienna, not merely for confronting Timothy, yet also assisting others in their position, we collectively achieved this. I acknowledged the truth, but you initiated the conflict. During the initial match, she surveyed the gallery and observed what it sparked. As the evening concluded, none of us appeared prepared to depart. We congregated near the Phoenix artwork, exchanging narratives and Sarah and Lisa formed a support group for survivors of workplace harassment, while Louis was creating software. Zoe accepted a role as a corporate ethics expert at New Beginnings to identify financial misconduct. Jessica lifted her glass, and, with a smile, Zoe added, to truth and karma. My mother stated emphatically, and I observed our improbable family united by the crisis intended to divide us. The terror that had dominated numerous lives had metamorphosed into power. Timothy's weapons were quiet, humiliation, and solitude. Let us utilize our tools for reconstruction, I proclaimed, raising my glass. What follows beyond the city is the illumination of lights glimmering against the encroaching darkness of the sky. Tomorrow will usher in Timothy's sentencing, generating additional headlines and alterations, but, this evening, in this time, surrounded by art and ally, I genuinely felt an emotion I had not encountered in years of perfection. The picture piece The Phoenix captivates the gallery with its wings extended across the canvas, symbolizing liberation. That it was not the conclusion of the narrative, but rather the inception.